any of us sitting here today would have ever said the words that Guy Fieri and a misogynist cult leader were friends. You know, where's that in Magnolia?
Yeah, where's Guy Fieri in the
where's Guy Fieri in Magnolia? That's my gripe.
Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself.
You are a toy!
Yeah, baby!
Here is the path to the dark side.
You are here for me to enlighten you.
I wouldn't say I've been missing it, Bob.
And one time, at band camp,
I see dead people.
First rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
If I don't make it out of here, don't put me down for mummification.
But I don't want your life.
Hello.
I hate the way you talk to me and the way you cut your hair. I'm also just a girl standing in front of a boy.
I know Kung Fu.
Welcome to 1999, the podcast. I'm John Brooks.
And I'm Julia Sermons.
And we're not going to do the usual intro here since we talked about this one already with then co-host Joey Lewandowski and Tyler Huckabee all the way back in August of 2022. It's a long time ago now. Released on December the 17th of 1999 is the third film from Paul Thomas Anderson, nominated for 3 Academy Awards: Screenplay for Anderson, Best Supporting Actor for Cruise, and Best Song for Amy Mann's Save Me. And 2 Golden Globes for Song and Best Supporting Actor Cruise, who won that award. And since Anderson just came off a Best Picture Oscar, his first, and one of 3 Oscars he won for one battle after another, and since it's been almost 4 years, we thought this was a good chance to revisit Magnolia.
Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a line to you from an opera. I want you to give me that line back in the language in which the opera was originally written. And for a bonus $250, you can sing it.
I'm Stanley Spector.
There is the story of a boy genius.
Willa Catherine, Thomas Kidd, Jean-Baptiste Clairmoyer,
and the game show host.
I'm Jimmy Gator.
Live from Burbank, California.
First question for 25. This French playwright and actor joined the Béjart troupe of actors.
And the ex-boy genius.
I'm Quiska Donnie Smith.
I used to be smart, now I'm just stupid.
There is the story of the dying man.
I'm Earl Partridge.
I have a son, you know.
You do?
Find him.
I'm Frank TJ Mackey.
His lost son.
What did he say? Because I am not going to take care of him. What does he want?
And the dying man's wife.
I'm Linda Partridge. I took care of him through this, Alan. What now, then? Me and him. Do you understand? There's no one else. No one else.
The caretaker.
Hello.
I'm Phil Parma. See, this is the scene of the movie where you helped me out.
And there is the story of a mother.
I'm Rose Gator. You come home soon after the show. I love you.
Love you too.
And the daughter.
I'm Claudia Wilson Gator.
Now that I've met you, would you object to never seeing me again?
And the police officer in love.
I'm Officer Jim Curring.
My life is very stressful, and I'd hope to have a relationship that is very calm and undemanding and loving. So if you are this person, please leave me a message at box number 82.
And this will all make sense in the end.
I know life is getting shorter. I can't bring myself to set the scene, even when it's approaching torture. I've got my routine.
This is not an easy job. I have to take everything and play as it lays. Sometimes people need a little help. Sometimes people need to be forgiven. And that is a very tricky thing on my part, making that call. But you can forgive someone? Well, that's the tough part. What can we forgive?
Was that unclear?
Kind of.
Oh, God.
So, Julia, what's Magnolia about?
Over the span of a single day in the San Fernando Valley, an enormous cast of miserable people are all somehow connected to each other. Earl Partridge, played by Jason Robards, is a dying TV producer who is eaten up with regret over abandoning his son from his first marriage. His much younger wife, Linda, played by Julianne Moore, married Earl for his money, but has inconveniently fallen in love with him and is now a wreck of guilt and grief. His kind, philosophical nurse, Phil, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, tries to track down Earl's estranged son. He turns out to be an unhinged pickup artist style motivational speaker who teaches men to psychologically manipulate women. This surely has nothing to do with his childhood abandonment. Meanwhile, over at the quiz show that Earl built his empire on, former child star Donnie Smith, played by William H. Macy, is a wreck of a man who just wants some braces. The show's current wonderkin, Stanley, played by Jeremy Blackman, is constantly harangued by his horrible stage father. The show's longtime host, Jimmy Gator, played by Philip Baker Hall, is also dying and has a secret that destroyed his relationship with his daughter, Claudia, played by Melora Walters. Claudia is struggling with addiction, but a kind, love-struck cop named Jim Curring, played by John C. Reilly, responds to a call at her apartment and immediately falls for her. Because he is the only decent person in this movie. And he,
well, Phil, but yeah.
Yeah. Then, just when you think things couldn't get any weirder, it starts raining frogs. This is not a metaphor; actual frogs from the sky.
Also a metaphor, but yes.
Yeah.
But really happens. Yeah.
In the aftermath of the frog deluge, several characters have breakthroughs, several others do not, and Amy Mann plays throughout.
Yeah.
That's the end.
That's the end. Joining us today to discuss Magnolia is comic 1990s pop culture lover, Magnolia superfan, and now with her brand new show, Everybody Knows But Me. See, it's everybody. I knew that. Podcaster Holly Annabelle Brown. Holly, welcome.
Hi.
Good to see you.
I am so stoked to talk about this movie. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't know what that says about young Holly when she saw that, but it is one of my favorite movies.
Well, I did the math, and you were 7 when it came out.
I was. I didn't see it at the time. I caught it later. But it's so interesting to look back on the films that like spoke to you when you were forming your taste. And what that also said about your mindset, like it said so much more about just, oh, I like this movie a lot because me and my innate nature likes it. It's like, no, I think I was wildly sad and lost myself in film and also connected to the, San Fernando Valley references of my hometown. Right. So just absolutely love this movie.
Yeah, let's talk about your podcast first then, because listening to the first couple episodes, I mean, I got in touch with you like before I heard your podcast, and so I was listening to it this week, and I was like, oh, I see why she likes this movie.
Oh my god, I almost knocked my headphones off because I was laughing. Yeah, see, you get it, you get it a lot.
Yeah, immediately I was like, oh yeah, here it is. Okay, this is like autobiographical. For you. Well, you got the San Fernando Valley thing, right? And you've got the family related to show business and issues and that sort of thing, right? Which are all explored in the podcast.
General themes of general themes of regret. Can you similar themes to Magnolia of like, are you worthy? Can you find worthiness at the final hour? Or are you gonna rack yourself with guilt until you're oh man, I'm really selling my happy-go-lucky podcast, aren't I? My super happy fun show.
We'll work on that in a second. We'll sell it to people. But yeah, the certainly this movie, one of its kind of core themes is parent-child relationships and whether or not people ever really grow up. And there's certainly a lot of that in your podcast. Let's talk about like what it is, how it works, where you're at with it. Let's sell it more to the people as something that is actually quite lovely. I'm not like depressed listening to it at all. So people should realize that it's not a sad podcast. It just deals with some pretty heavy shit. But talk about the inspiration for it and the structure of it.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's lives in the zones of what I've always felt like I've lived in is a lot of tragedy, and then the only way that I can, which is so cliche to say out loud, but it's so true. Like lots of tragedy. The only way I could do it is to make funny out of it, and that's why I became a comedian because we're all deeply, deeply, deeply. Can I curse on this podcast? By the way.
Oh, but
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
The more
great.
the merrier. Yeah.
We are like any other comedian in the world. We are deeply fucked up human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And I work in podcasting, and I didn't quite put the pieces together about being a comedian and working in podcasting because I didn't feel like I wanted to have a story that contributed to the world. I didn't want to just put something out there that I felt like I didn't have a unique angle on, you know, the way that you guys are narrowing in on 1 year of an iconic film year. I didn't have this idea. And then it struck me like, well, shit, I do have a giant secret I've never tackled in my life. The way that you bury those deep down and they only come out in moments of, you know, whoa, shocked back into them.
Yeah.
And I was listening to another podcast that inspired me to make one of my own. And much like you do when you unravel one secret, you pull the thread and a million other ones come out. And so it's a detailing of my life, essentially, how I'm coping with this very large secret of my dad's on his deathbed, and what that looks like in a family full of other secrets when you didn't really realize there were so many intertwining secrets to begin with.
Right.
All told through the lens of my deep, deep love and my father's career on 90s sitcoms. So there's heavy sitcom elements woven through. Each episode starts with a cold open of a fictionalized, you know, sitcom version of my life that is hopefully, it's going to be uncomfortable, but it is going to be funny. Like that's the conceit is I want to make you squirm and I want to make you laugh a little and, you know, tickle those nostalgia nodes at the same time. So it's a lot. It's a couple genres in one, and then hopefully something people haven't heard before.
Yeah, I like the sitcom framing because I felt like in the couple episodes that I've heard so far, I felt like the way you use that, like when you're telling these stories, and I'm kind of translating them from like sitcom to biography. It's a really interesting way of talking about some like fucked up stuff and doing it in a way that's like filtered through this lens of this sitcom. But then I'm like thinking to myself, like, well, is this a real story? Like, it probably is a real story. And then I'm seeing the real story, and it's like a lot more messed up than the sitcom. So it's a really like interesting way of kind of softening, I think, a lot of like that.
Yeah.
That for lack of a better word, trauma. But like, you know,
yeah.
At least trauma, right? That
No, trauma's the word, John. There's no lack of. Trauma's the word. Yeah, I feel like sitcoms, they're a representation of our reality. Well, many times what we want our reality to be, but it's also, you know, to me, watching sitcoms helped me realize that the things in my life that were happening weren't normal, because when they are your reality, that is all you know, and that's what you think is normal.
Right.
And so I wanted to reach back out into these sitcom worlds when I started to put these pieces together of when my life diverged from the sitcom worlds that I'm watching. And I kept wanting to go back there, you know, go back into these places. But you don't know what's not normal until you are confronted with the stark contrast of what other people have and what you don't. And I thought sitcoms plus, you know, my dad's entanglement with sitcoms.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other sitcom layers too that I can't speak to now, but they will reveal themselves on the show.
Okay. Yeah. No spoilers.
So, yeah.
I also like I don't know if it's intentional, but the cover art reminds me of I Saw the TV Glow, which also...
Oh, that was intentional, absolutely.
Okay, all right. Okay, good.
I'm glad you said that. We've gotten a lot of people say poltergeist, and I'm like, ooh, hey,
yeah,
I don't hate, but also I Saw the TV Glow is
yeah,
absolutely the reference point, so I'm so glad that you connected that.
Oh, cool. Julia, I don't know, did you watch like the 90s sitcoms growing up? Were you like raised by Boy Meets World like the rest of us?
Yeah, I mean, I had there was like the Friday night programming, right?
TGIF. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was a big thing. Like you always went to your friend's house and got. But I also associate like 90s sitcoms a lot with like at the NBC. Unstoppable.
the must see
later.
TV Thursday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like watching those as a way of connecting when I could watch them when no one was home and nobody knew I was watching it. But like that kind of being like this big cultural zeitgeist, and also like a way to connect to your peers, and then also just like a way that became a way of feigning you understood adult stuff when you really didn't. You're having strong opinions on Friends or whatever, made
Seinfeld.
made you feel very mature.
Yeah, that's true. I like there's a lot of stuff. So one of the things that was really kind of profound for me listening to your show, because I don't think about this a lot, and I really should, because the role that sitcoms actually did play in my life is like overwhelmingly profound, and I just haven't done a lot of thought about it, right? And one of the things,
that's a common millennial trait,
Well, I'm a late Xer, but like, yeah, it is like of my like micro generation. You're probably right. But the thing that I found really interesting from your podcast, and I just like never put this together before, is that nobody was divorced. Yeah. And like everybody was divorced at the time.
Yeah.
Like, the thing about being my age is that like half the people that I know had divorced parents, and like there were no divorced parents in sitcoms. And of course that's very intentional. Of course, like one of the things that you talk about, right, is the way that sitcoms act as this kind of, like idealized perfect world that you can kind of escape into.
Yeah.
Every once in a while. But it is really kind of it's almost stunning that none of the major 1990s or early 2000s sitcoms had divorced parents, like as it's it had like remarried parents, like Step by Step, right? But like never, the main character like shares custody. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a house each week, and you're like at the mom's house one week and the dad's house another week, and like, that's a pretty good premise, but it never happened.
Yeah,
it's
I could be wrong, but I kind of feel like maybe the first and only depiction that I saw was on Reba. Like early in the early aughts, single mom who works too hard, who loves her kids and never stops. Yep. Reba, she was technically divorced in the show, and I think that was the first one. It was all through her POV. It wasn't, through anything else. But yeah, they tackled all these hard themes, and yet divorce was one throughout, the 80s and 90s of sitcom golden era, that they were like, nope, we will tackle every addiction, but we will not do divorce.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really
interesting.
Bizarre.
Yeah. Which you're so right about the timing of like thinking of how old I was when I was watching these sitcoms. Like every one of my parents, like that was the thing happening across the board in all my friends' lives, as their parents were getting divorced. Yeah.
My first girlfriend, like when she found out my parents were married, she was like shocked.
Oh God.
She's like, they're like married to each other, and I'm like, yeah,
on purpose,
because like she didn't have any friends who had like married parents, and she and so it was yeah,
absolutely. I'm finding a lot of those little things when I'm writing this, is like, oh, I don't know if I really sat with that little nugget of sitcom lore.
Yeah,
as much as I do now, and I'll never unsee it now. So sorry, everyone, you'll never unsee what you are about to listen to.
And there was like you talk about like Sean from Boy Meets World, and it's like his parents were divorced, so like the idea of like supporting characters having divorced parents was okay, but it was never
totally
centralized in the sitcom, which is just a weird, man. No wonder we're a fucked up generation. Like. Not shocking. All right, so Magnolia. I've already talked about Magnolia plenty. I feel, I don't know, I have thoughts. But Julia, I'm gonna start with you because like have you not seen this before?
No, I had not.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm not sure what I was expecting exactly, because I feel like you kind of don't, there's not like Paul Thomas Anderson is not like Hitchcock, right? Like there's not that degree of auteurist consistency in his work on that level. Like he's like you know, like this is very different from Phantom Thread or from One
Mhm.
Battle After Another or whatever. So I wasn't exactly sure what to expect other than knowing the type of role that Cruise played in the movie and knowing that it rained frogs. I think that might have been the extent of my knowledge.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, so I mean, like I think I see where I mean, I think I see why this is Anderson's breakthrough film.
Yeah.
Even if I have trouble pinning down exactly what makes him an auteur in a conventional sense, but this sort of like this kind of like focus on character, but in a kind of elusive or roundabout way. You know, that the emotions of the characters and the pain of the characters is really revealed kind of slowly and through idiosyncratic means, I would say.
Yeah.
And that the movie is giving you connections between these people, but they're not very obvious ones, and they're ones you kind of have to think about a little bit more. It actually kind of reminded me of a totally different film, but that we talked about, which is Jarmusch's new film,
Yeah.
like Mother, Father, Sister,
I was
Brother.
thinking about that too while I was
Yeah,
watching it.
like because there's this idea there are these small connections or reverberations between different people and different kinds of bad relationships or estranged relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that there's a way you could do that, which would be too much like, let's put the puzzle pieces together, or let's make it a jukebox musical, you know, or like something like that, where you could be very, not necessarily lazy, but very straightforward in the way you tell these overlapping stories. But I felt like the ways the connections, not even are revealed, but the way the connections are displayed to us is quite unique. And I kind of want to feel like, I kind of want to say, that's the Paul Thomas Anderson thing about it, but I don't know if I could hold that could stand up in court. If my I don't know if that's the signature feature.
Not guilty of being Paul Thomas Anderson. I know what you mean. I know what you mean for sure.
That's my first take.
It's really interesting. I mean, like, I think so like, I don't think anybody would say that Paul Thomas Anderson isn't an auteur, but I think what makes him interesting is that it is really hard to pin down exactly like what his thing is. And like, in some ways that's also Jarmusch. Like, we had this conversation about Jim Jarmusch, is that it's really hard to exactly articulate what a Jim Jarmusch movie is, right? And like what makes it one. You know, there's something about Paul Thomas Anderson. Like, lately it's because, like, you know, Radiohead guy writes the score or whatever, but like there's something about Paul Thomas Anderson that, you know, you're dealing with Paul Thomas Anderson. But to your point, like, when I first saw the trailer for One Battle After Another, and then I found out it was a Paul Thomas Anderson movie, I'm like, what? That's just not, that doesn't look like him at all. So I mean, I guess his trademark is that he makes really fucking great movies. I don't think he's made a real like bad one ever, but yeah, it is. And that's good. I think that, I mean, you don't necessarily have a signature aesthetic or style, except that everything that you do, I guess the thing to me that makes him is that everything that he does, he goes all in terms of like commitment to whatever the bit is, right? And I think this is the most kind of all his movies, this is the most kind of conceptual, right? It's like it's the one that has the most kind of a conceit to it, and that he set out to like adapt A.B. Mann's music into a story, and it kind of works like that, and then it sort of like loses, but like it's very sort of like high concept. And I think of all his movies, that is what makes Magnolia sort of stand out from the rest of them, where it's like with Boogie Nights, it's like, you know what the concept is, and like he just kind of like goes into it, and it makes perfect sense. But okay, so Holly, you, how old? So you weren't 7. So how old were you roughly when you saw the really for the first time.
I know I was in high school. I think I was probably 14 when I saw this movie.
That's all right.
And I had not seen Boogie Nights yet, which I think was good.
Oh yeah, I think that's not a 14-year-old's movie, but sure.
Like, this was my entry point to PTA. And so when this, I think, is your entry point, and the time that I found it, I'm developing my taste. I also feel like in hindsight, now having seen Boogie Nights, knowing this was a follow-up, I'm like, oh, I think this was him trying to figure out what kind of auteur he was. And then almost along the way, realizing he's pulling from all of his idols instead.
Yeah.
And which I like. I think and then you also have to remember how young he was when he was making this movie. Like, following Boogie Nights, how old was he? 29 when he made this, I think, which is insane.
Something ridiculous. Yeah. Too fucking young.
So I think I'm under no illusion that this is his best film, but it is my favorite nostalgia wise, and I also think it's underrated in certain senses. The parts that are very rated, I completely agree with, and then I think there's other just overall parts that are underrated. I think you could cut 30 minutes from the film and you'd be okay.
Oh, that's those are fighting words.
I think you could cut potentially a whole storyline and you'd also be okay, like a whole character, you'd be okay. But I grew up in the San Fernando Valley, and like knowing how much I was seeking to learn what my own artistic preferences were, and then also finding that connective tissue of like what I agreed with or saw in the film that reflected in my own life, which literally were also the setting and the places. And that was just too cool as a 14-year-old not to be like, I'm going to put this as a cornerstone of my filmmaking preferences. And I'm also going to be annoying and hoity-toity and tell everyone as a 14-year-old, this is my favorite film. And then cut to I'm an adult when I realize my actual favorite film is Clueless. And I'm like, oh, who are you trying to impress? Just say your actual favorite film. Don't pretend. But I do love this movie so much. I think it's I was a big Fiona Apple fan too, and I know he was dating Fiona Apple at the time he made this movie. And I think that plus the Amy Mann like music association, there's just like so many things firing in my brain to like want to like this film.
I think we've mentioned on the podcast the story of Fiona Apple quitting cocaine because of a night spent with Paul Thomas Anderson and Quentin Tarantino. Oh, you don't know that story? Yeah,
no.
Yeah. So Fiona Apple credits having to spend a night on cocaine with Paul Thomas Anderson and Quentin Tarantino as like the reason why she stopped. And I was like, that would make anybody stop. Like that is. Yeah.
That is so wild, because in watching this film, I did kind of feel a very cocaine presence. A cocaine energy presence. And I had no idea that was a thing.
Yes.
So wow, that makes so much sense, especially with the way the film is shot. It's sometimes very like almost handy cam, very, some of the scenes are a little choppy, and that, I mean, I like it, but it's getting these little nuggets. There's so much to mine from this film in that sense, and that makes a lot more things click.
Yeah.
Wow.
What would you cut?
I think I loved growing up. I loved John C. Reilly's storyline. I think his character is, like we mentioned earlier, one of the only ones that has, redeeming qualities from the start.
Yeah.
I just don't quite understand his character's purpose sometimes from the film. Like, I get what he's there for when it comes to Claudia's character. There were moments where I wanted more from Claudia's character and her family and less of him, although he's so endearing. Like, I fell in love with him in this film. This was my first introduction to him as an actor before anything.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes I think about each character's storylines. That one is one that I'm like, I'm not sure we need to dive into as much with him as we do.
Yeah.
But you said that they were fighting words earlier of me. I don't need to cut anything, but if I had to from a 3-hour movie, which I don't think is the most insane thing to think about.
No,
I
think that Paul Thomas Anderson fans revere his sort of final cut, like his vision as like something that is sacred and you cannot touch.
Yeah, I think I've heard him somewhere talk about how he himself was like, he got, if I'm not mistaken, like you said, he got final cut on this movie, like coming off of Boogie Nights and the success of that. He got a big budget where they were like, go do whatever you want, a much bigger budget than I'm sure he expected. And then I think I even have heard him talk about being like, like almost regretful, which I think is ironic considering the themes of the film, regretful that he wishes that he had done a few things differently on this film because of it's, I think a lot of it is inspired by his own life too. So he wishes, I've heard him talk about, he didn't specify what, and I wonder why sometimes. I'm like, maybe he knows not to give us, his fans, that, of what he might actually change, but it sounded like he would have changed some things if he could go back.
It's interesting because one of the things that I continue to love about this movie all these years later, and I loved it like from day one, and it was one of the movies that I was very annoying about as well after it came out. It
does that to us.
Is that it's kind of messy. I actually like.
Yeah.
I like that it doesn't. I mean, all of it works, but some of it feels contrived. Some of it feels forced. There's a lot of like shifts in tone. There's a lot of like weird, like there's the rapping kid. There's like a lot of weird like side characters. There's frogs coming from the sky. It's all kind of a giant mess. And I don't really feel, I think that's the thing that I sort of miss about Paul Thomas Anderson in his later movies is that they are so finely tuned that this one has this feeling of like, I don't know, almost like it's coming from his subconscious in some kind of way that is.
Yeah, that's a really kind of cool way to look at it. And it like, you're talking about like the messiness of the movie. Also, I feel that way sometimes in the performances too, where it's, you have some of the, probably my favorite performances of all time with Tom Cruise as Frank Mackey is hands down one of my favorite acting performances.
No, I think I know it's not like a hot take or anything, but I think this is his best performance.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
And then I think Julianne Moore, like obviously an incredible actress, but I think it's very fascinating that her character is, unlike certain other storylines, 0 to 60 really fast in the way in her acting. And that I think kind of speaks to the messiness of maybe like, of how it played out when he was filmmaking it, where it's like, it is very real, where not everyone's storylines are going to build the same way, even if that is what's best for the audience experience. It's very real that this woman is starting at 100 and then she cranks it up to 110,
Yeah. Yeah. And there's actors who could read the phone book and be entertained. Like, Julianne Moore is one of those actors. Philip Seymour Hoffman's one of those actors. But the great thing about this, and I think why this to me is, again, not a hot take, but Cruise's best performance, although Eyes Wide Shut is also up there, is that it is incredibly, it's weird because it's incredibly actorly, right? He's doing a lot of like acting, but it also feels like his most naturalistic performance. This to me is the closest I've ever seen to who I think Tom Cruise actually is as a human being. And I think that's, no, for real. And I think that's kind of revelatory because he has like his whole thing is Tom Cruise TM. His whole thing is his facade. He's one of the greatest movie stars of all time, but like he is a great actor, but first and foremost, like a great movie star. And that whole thing is very calculated and very like, precisely tuned and all that sort of thing. And, the scenes where he's breaking down with his father or where he kind of loses cool with the interviewer. And like, it just feels like there's this seething kind of rage underneath Tom Cruise that's always there. And this is the one movie that really like gets let out in a way that feels familiar and
yes.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I have so many thoughts about that, and one is like, when I think about this movie, his performance in this movie, I weirdly also think about Tropic Thunder and what people's reaction. Well, I know that's gonna.
Yeah.
But
I didn't see that coming, but yeah.
I joke's on you. I bring up Tropic Thunder in every podcast. No, I don't. But like how. When people saw his performance in that, how much they were like so shocked that he could do that, right? Whereas I think if you had seen this in Magnolia, I almost feel like this could have been the trajectory we got from him all along after Magnolia.
Yeah.
We could have gotten so many different Tom Cruise performances. And I think he just made a couple different choices in his acting career. He had some flops maybe that got him down after this. And he didn't win the Oscar for this movie. So I just wonder if a couple things were different. You know, what would we have gotten from Tom Cruise? Because I still love the guy, despite, unfortunately, everything. Despite the fact that he knows where Shelley Miscavige is, I still love the guy.
Yeah.
I think he's just enigmatic. I love him. But I also feel like I heard somewhere, you know, when you win an Oscar, you're not winning for the best acting. You're winning for the most acting a lot of times.
Yeah.
And that's what
it's true. Yeah.
Which is so true when you think about who won. But for this role, then it doesn't make any fucking sense why he didn't win then. Because I think he did the most acting and the best acting.
Who did win?
It was Michael Caine from Cider House
Oh,
Rules.
right.
Which
Controversial.
is a lovely performance, but like, come the fuck on.
Come on.
What are we doing? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like, I feel like the Tom Cruise movie star layer of his aura is very hard to entirely strip away or put to the side, but the way I interpret it is that he's taking that movie star charisma and just channeling it into something that's like really dark. Dark and evil and sad, and then like it's and like so it works so perfectly as to be kind of compelling and also completely off-putting at the same time. And I think for him to like kind of channel his charisma in that way really works very well. And then for the mask to kind of drop and we see him to the extent he is able to mourn his father. I think he's using his charisma and his persona in a very controlled and interesting way here, in a way that's kind of what makes it the best supporting actor winner for me, is that there's that degree of difficulty and there's so many layers to what's going on there. Which I don't know. I don't know if it's quite. I don't know if most acting is the right thing to say. It's just layered. You know. I mean, like, I totally get what you're saying, because, like, there is like a lot of acting going on, but I think like the levels on which the performance is happening is something quite skillful, and something that's quite moving in a way.
Yeah, it's a really interesting contrast to like Philip Seymour Hoffman in this movie, who's a very thinly sketched out character and has very little screen time, but is also one of the most memorable characters and performances in the movie, and something that you as a viewer kind of like a character you gravitate towards, because he's kind of an outsider. He's got this kind of like nurturing sort of aura to him, and you're watching all this chaos, and he's the one person who kind of exists on the periphery of it. And this was like Philip Seymour Hoffman's magic, right? Was the reason why his best performances are always supporting roles is because he just had this ability to like live inside of a character that you didn't need to know a ton about and didn't need to see a ton of. And like almost like the less you knew and the less you saw, like the more memorable the role is. Like this year, right, he got, I can't remember what the award was, but he won some supporting actor award for this and The Talented Mr. Ripley as like a dual award, right? It's like the same thing, like same, like very limited screen time, but like the thing that you were just so magnetically drawn to. And the contrast between that and Cruise, and they were both, I mean, just like generational talents in their own ways, and seeing them in the same movie and that like working, I don't know, there's something kind of like really magic about those two things existing at the same time, especially because they share like screen time in this movie as well, which is.
And I think I God, am I crazy? I have this Magnolia book. One time, this guy I dated very briefly, but left a lasting imprint on me because he got me this incredible Magnolia like coffee table book. And so shouts out to you wherever you are. But he,
Whatever your name is, whoever you are, whatever. Yeah.
whoever you
Magnolia
are.
book guy. You know who you are.
He got this book. I remember it was talking about how Philip Seymour Hoffman's reaction to that scene of Tom Cruise and his dying father, him crying in the background of that, which I thought was fascinating choice to include.
Yeah.
As a director, to be like including the supporting character's reaction to that, like that was not. I don't believe that was in the script. I'm pretty sure Philip Seymour Hoffman was genuinely reacting to the performances that he was seeing in front of him, which I think speaks so much to what you're saying about like him as a performer and how good of a supporting actor, how much of a listener you have to be a good supporting actor.
Yeah. Julia, I know we like 90-minute movies. I think this is probably the longest movie we've ever talked about.
I love, there are plenty of long movies that I love. I just feel
I know you do. But in terms of this being 3 and close, I think 3.5 hours, right? Pretty close to that.
Yeah.
How did you feel about the length of it?
You could tell I'm a little tired now. So, other than general newish parenting tiredness, kind of making it a bit challenging to sit down and watch, but in its entirety. But yeah, it really works for me. I don't know. I feel like there's the progression between the stories feels pretty organic most of the time, and it even if that's just sort of like visually or thematically connected, like those things feel earned most of the time.
Yeah.
And they flow well for me. The ending, I don't know, like it gets a bit sort of post frog raining. It still gets a little less polished in its connection between the storylines. And it's a little, I guess maybe because more storylines are coming together at that point, like it feels a little bit it feels like we're kind of rushing to get to the finish line maybe a little bit at the end.
Yeah. And I think it's a movie where the journey is much more interesting than the destination, right? Like, and that's sort of, it's hard to then figure out how to get to the destination. I did write down, I just realized this because I had this thought for the first time watching it, because I teach literature. So I said, this is the closest thing to a modern novel as a movie, but the novel wouldn't be better. Which I think, and I think that's kind of how I feel about it. Like, I feel like I'm watching an adaptation of a novel, but the novel doesn't exist, and I think this would be better than the novel. But it feels very much like, I mean, the way that he uses the characters and the way the narrative is structured feels very much like he's kind of making a novel as a film.
Yeah, it does. It kind of, and like how steeped in his own life some of the parts of the story are with his relationship with his dad. I think the main character, or not the main character, sorry, the TV announcer character, like his dad was a TV announcer, PTA.
Yeah.
And so like, I wonder if that feeling of the novelesque memoir style potential is steeped in that of like, oh, somebody just sat down and had to get it all out. And thank God we have a movie version of it, because reading it might have been tedious as hell.
Yeah. I also wrote down that Frank TJ Mackey could not be more relevant.
I know. Oh my God.
Which really sucks.
Yes. Oh my God. Like I was just thinking about how the 2000s, obviously Gen Z is adopting the 2000s, in ways that previous generations have as well with other generations, but with other decades. But Gen Z is so co-opted, like wants the 2000s to come back seemingly in these other ways. And I'm like, ooh, we need to make sure we're looking at the areas in which 2000s should not come back. And clearly the era of this, hyper masculine self-help, that was popular around the late 90s coming back now. It's just fascinating to see, like, it's the exact same, the same language, everything.
Yeah.
Well, I think like my thought about this was that the pickup artists, like that whole community and that dude with the big furry hat, and like that was in all over culture and television, like they
Wait, who are you talking about?
I know exactly who you're talking about, Julia.
What guy with the furry hat?
Mystery was his name, and there was a TV show. There was like a TV show about him for a while. He was featured in a book called The Game, I think.
That fucking okay. Yeah. All right, yeah.
And so I think they tried to kind of launder their reputation as like non-gross, despite the obvious grossness. And I felt like what's so great about the character, Cruz's character in this movie, is that he is he's laying it all bare. Like there's the cock and the cunt words, and like you know, you're going to be master of the cunt or whatever, blah blah blah, and like that really.
I should take that audio out of context and like just put it over Julia saying you're going to be master of the cunt or whatever.
Like that really was the seedy underbelly of this subculture as we knew it at the time, and now it just seems more realistic, or like it's just depicting as how they are.
Totally. Yeah, because this was kind of fringe shit at the time, right? And like that's what's so depressing about it. I don't think that Paul Thomas Anderson ever meant this to be predictive of where we would be, 25 years later. But this kind of shit was very much the internet wasn't really what it is now, obviously. So it didn't really exist so much in internet circles, but there was this kind of like underground kind of, especially in, Los Angeles, this kind of, what do you call them? The seminar thing, right? Where you go and you pay money and then you pay more money and more money. That whole scam, right? It was kind of part of that thing. And I think it was like, I think it was familiar enough to people that when he uses it, people kind of get the reference point, but it still very much felt like this thing that was an obvious mistake and gross and was probably going to be over soon. And then you get to like Andrew Tate, right? Like 25 years later, and it's like hanging out with the president, like at UFC fights and that sort of thing. So in terms of what Frank represents, both in terms of like the crisis of just like male fragility and also this kind of weaponized and commercialized misogyny, boy, does this unfortunately age incredibly well, right? I wish the opposite were true, but
I wonder if he was a bit predictive in, it seems like he has an interest in cult-like mentality, and so
yeah, for sure, yeah.
Obviously with the master, so like there is some weird predictive tissue plus his own personal interest that is like, oh, interesting that those two things that he combined in this film as opposed to the master, which is later on in his filmmaking career, but like this is way more relevant than the master is. And I think they like that it still speaks to the cult, like the culture of cults that we are, if that's so pervasive now. Who knew if any of us sitting here today would have ever said the words that Guy Fieri and a hyper masculine misogynist cult leader were friends. Like, where's that in Magnolia?
Yeah, where's Guy Fieri in the audience?
Yeah, where's Guy Fieri in Magnolia? That's my gripe.
Yeah, and I also think that like what's interesting about the master thing is the L. Ron Hubbard, then Tom Cruise thing about that, right? And
100%.
I also think what's interesting, I don't want to make this all about Tom Cruise, obviously, but I also think what's interesting about that is that there I don't know, there seems to be some times with Tom Cruise where there's a self-awareness of the fact that he is like Jesus to a cult, kind of comes through. And like, there's no way that he could have done this performance without at least like some, at least subconscious understanding of that. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I did not think about the Scientology aspect of this until you brought it up, which is wild that I'm over here talking about the master and I didn't put that fucking together. Yeah, it's like this movie feels like a lot of seeds for a lot of things that sprouted later.
Yeah, and there's, I mean, you want to, you know, I would say the same thing about Eyes Wide Shut, where it just seems weird to me that he can do that role so effectively. And that role also has a very, not like anti-Scientology element to it, but a sense of like exploring the seduction of like, you know, secret society and all of that sort of thing. And like, you know, being seduced by this like powerful cabal. And like, surely Cruise, I mean, like he can't be like, the cognitive dissonance of Cruise can't be so great that he doesn't see that, right? And I feel like that's something he taps into, because I do think that deep down he knows Scientology's kind of fucked up.
Do you think he's totally trapped now and he like can't get out even if he wanted to?
Oh, for sure now, yeah. But even 25 years ago, like I don't really know what the relationship was. But I mean, to me, and I'm totally like armchair, you know, psychologizing for Tom Cruise here. But to me, it feels like in some way his Scientology is partly kind of like self-punishment. Like I don't know, but like there's something about there's obviously something deep down with Tom Cruise that is like broken in him and has been for his whole life, and I don't think he would like argue that fact, right? And that he kind of found a coping mechanism for it in Scientology, and then it got so beyond him. But I don't know. I guess we'll have to wait until he dies in the biography.
Yeah, I know.
Really get into this.
Or can I offer an alternative perspective of relating somebody choosing projects like that to intentionally say, look over here, mask, say, hey, I'm in on it. I understand what you're saying. This couldn't possibly be me.
Yeah.
Similar to, I mean, I am not comparing Tom Cruise. Actually, maybe it's not that big of a deal if I do. But, you know, Chris D'Elia choosing the role in You that he chose.
Oh my fucking God. Like what? Like, that blows my mind all the time.
But
I am, yeah.
Maybe there's a little seedlings of that. It's somebody that potentially has uncontrollable narcissism, and maybe Tom Cruise has a little bit more control over it. But, you know, saying like, hey, I'm going to be the character that I actually am in real life, and you are going to look over here because of that.
Yeah. But that's also what makes it like kind of amazing. I don't know.
I know. Look at, I mean, 26 years later, and we're still nonstop talking about his performance.
I'm so mad. Like, I don't give a shit about the Oscars. I'm so mad he didn't win the Oscar for this. Like, it's the thing I'm most mad about when it comes to the Oscars. Like, beyond Jim Carrey and the Truman Show, that's like the second thing I'm most mad about. But like,
could not agree more.
Like, this is fucking bullshit. It's bullshit.
Yes. I know. Let's scrap every issue that's going on in the public eye and let's focus on this one, because this is what matters.
This is what matters.
This is what matters, and I'm pissed.
You ruined Tom Cruise, the actor, for us, the Academy. And sure, we got like 9 great Mission Impossible films out of it. Like, you know, still.
But we also got Vanilla Sky. Who needed that?
Oh, geez.
Okay. Yeah. But I mean, Julianne Moore I fucking love her performance in this movie, and I think a lot of people sometimes think it's a little too much, a little too intense, but I don't. I think it's like a woman unraveling, and she nails it. And I do always think of, I don't know if either of you have seen Billy on the Street with Billy Eichner, that like
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Where he runs up, and with Julianne Moore, he did that, and he like ran up to somebody and forced her to do the monologue of the scene. Yeah. And she does it beat for beat perfectly the way she does it in this movie. And it's like, oh, you can do anything. Like you're incredible.
Girl, you got chops.
So not that anyone listening is wondering if Julianne Moore is a good actor, but
you gotta make something of yourself, kid. Yeah.
That scene in the pharmacy when she is just, dressing down those pharmacists and just being like, you called me lady. I'm like,
That's a pretty good Julianne Moore.
I could watch that scene so many times and just marvel at how she can get there, energy wise. She's phenomenal. Everybody in this movie is so good, but like,
yeah, there's no bad performances here, right? Like,
yeah.
Julia, are there bad performances? I don't think there are. I can't think of a single one that like doesn't work for me. I think they're all. I mean, I love half these actors, like Philip Baker Hall. Fucking loved it. Like,
well, that's something like I guess the part is quite short, quite contained.
Yeah.
But something I was thinking is like, is that not a best supporting actor contender?
Philip Baker Hall. Yeah.
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 I mean, this whole fucking cast, you could just give best supporting actor nominations to.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, that's another thing. Like after like the awful Jimmy Savile revelations, like that makes this part of 1996 hit different to that storyline.
Wait, Julia, earlier in the description, you had said that Donnie Smith's character was dying. Is that something that is known in the movie?
I think I may have messed that up, actually.
Oh, okay. But
I think I might have put the dying in the wrong place. So we
well, my bad. I did not. I almost was like,
right.
That's the layering that this movie is that I'm like, wait a minute, could that have also been a subplot? Yeah.
He's dying of loneliness, that's for sure.
Yes, he absolutely is. He is. And that, oh my God. I remember loving this movie, but then also dreading William H. Macy scenes a bit because he's so like, as a young person watching this movie, I would be like, I kind of want to fast forward through those things. But I think that's a good thing because I'm so uncomfortable watching him and like the way he acts and like getting the braces and the obsession over the braces. Something about the way they film braces is not good for big braces, for the big braces machine. But like his scenes felt so distinctly more uncomfortable to me than other people's in the movie. And, obviously shouts out to him as an actor, but also like, I don't know. It seems like you felt that same way.
Yeah, I'm always like a sucker for that kind of quest journey, like where someone needs something apparently totally trivial.
Yes, right.
But that like it means something incredibly important to them,
and also like harebrained, like
yeah.
And just like this, the braces mean something about himself to him that like he goes any lengths to preserve, and so like I do feel like if we are talking about making this movie shorter, he's the obvious cut, but I think like he's so great, and like that kind of striving, I think, is kind of an interesting. It adds a different dimension to the film, I guess, in terms of people being fucked up and how they deal with their fucked upness.
Yeah. And desperate to not be lonely, right? And like that's the thing is that so this has always been the thing for me because, and I think also in context, right? Because when I was 20 when this movie came out, William H. Macy was like in the golden age of William H. Macy as like supporting actor, extraordinaire, right? Fargo is a couple years earlier, but just like a string of like movies where William H. Macy is like that cool actor who you love, who's always got these cool roles in these movies, kind of like the non-weird version of Steve Buscemi, right?
Oh my God, yes.
But the thing that I have the hardest time with this movie is like I can deal with like Jason Robards dying. I can deal with like, Tom Cruise breaking down in tears and like violent misogyny. I cannot deal with William H. Macy being sad. And like, that is the thing I struggle with the most because it makes me deeply uncomfortable in my core to watch like sad, vulnerable, lonely William H. Macy. There's just something about it that feels like so wrong and such like an affront to the universe to have that guy sort of in that.
Absolutely. That's such a good point for especially the kind of roles he was getting at the time. Because like I mean, Mystery Men is like one of my favorite films of all time
Yeah.
too. And you know, they're very different characters, but it is this.
They are quite different characters. that is true.
Nope, same timeline, same universe.
It's a prequel to the Shoveler. Yeah.
He just,
this is how, this is how he became a superhero. Is he like needed braces to impress this guy, and then
and he wanted to bust other people's mouths in with a shovel so that everyone had to get braces.
That's good. I like that. So, yeah. So that's the middle film in between that we got to make.
Yeah, that's so part of childhood that he missed out on by having to be this like. Like, not that he actually didn't get braces, but that like braces represent normal childhood.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's such a good point, Julia. I think you're so right. Like he's thinking they represent, you know, finding love because he'll have something in common, but he doesn't even know. Like he wanted them for another reason all along. Yeah. Wow, I never thought about that. I think I proactively tried not to think about that storyline as much because he made me so sad. Yeah. But I do think that I did just think that if I ever do another bar trivia with a team, I will name our team Quiz Kid Donnie Smith.
That's good. Oh, I do trivia every week, so we should.
You can take it, John.
Well, we live on the opposite sides of the country, so I don't think it's going to be a problem.
Very true.
I don't think they're going to be like, huh. I feel like this name was taken.
But then we're going to find ourselves in the championship round of the international
this is a great
trivia
story.
that we've...
So there's a movie. So, all right, I'm going to shift gears for a second because I think we should talk about Amy Mann. And the thing that I have always said to people who are like, well, I like this movie. And I was like, well, here's the thing. There's a scene where all the characters sing like one line from a Amy Mann song at the same time, and it makes sense in the movie. And if that sounds good to you, then you will like this movie. And if it doesn't, you might not like this movie. And I love how Paul Thomas Anderson basically puts the entire movie on the line for the Wise Up scene because it is such a big fucking swing. And if you can't pull it off, then it would ruin the entire movie and take you way out of it, right? I think there are times in here where he like shoehorns Amy Mann-ness a little bit into some of his, and he kind of like dropped the whole sort of premise of this being an adaptation of Amy Mann's songs. Although I do think thematically there's a lot of Amy Mann in like the characters and the storytelling and that sort of thing. But like the Wise Up scene to me is the thing that always makes or breaks the movie in like most people's minds. And I love it and think it's like spectacular. And also I think it's like such a great microcosm of like what this movie is, because it's like earnest and heartfelt and like raw, but also like fucking weird at the same time, right? And like that sort of you know pinpoints it. Julia, we've never talked about Amy Mann. Do you have Amy Mann feelings or background or?
I mean, I think probably I got into her because of this film.
Even though you didn't see the film.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I think I may actually have the soundtrack to this movie somewhere, or I sought her out once I had heard the music at the Oscars actually.
Her doing
but she does really, even though I'm not so familiar with California, like I do feel like she's really capturing the sound of a place, the feeling, the vibe of a place. She has this song I like a lot. I think it's called "Hanging Around." And it's kind of like about what happens after graduation, and she and it's like everyone I know is acting weird or way too cool, and I think the lines are something to that effect. But just like, just having this sort of, I guess she kind of combines a sort of intelligence with kind of like wells of feeling around and beneath it that really appeals to me, and I think really works for this film.
Yeah, because I like what I would say about Amy Mann and her unique ability as a songwriter is that she combines universality with like non-specificity. She's not a confessional songwriter in the sense that I never really quite feel that what she is telling me is like autobiographical, right? Like I don't feel like she's being like open and raw, but what she is trying to do is like tell stories that relate to something that is part of just like the universal human experience, and in such a way that is almost like quirky, right? Like writing a song about like graduation, right, is almost like quirky in its kind of specificity. So yeah, and I think that that's sort of like what is kind of the DNA of the characters in this movie as well, right? And the sort of the way that they interact and the world that they inhabit, and that sort of thing.
I'm not super familiar with her music outside of this movie. This was definitely my introduction to her music, but I was a huge Fiona Apple fan growing up. And, you know, you're talking about like the women of the 90s and how much they pulled from the rawness of the real life to influence their storytelling and their songs.
Yeah.
Alanis and Fiona. And then I love that you just pointed out. And Amy Mann, you still have that you get the same feelings that you get from those women of that era, but she's doing it in a very unique way. And I didn't quite put that together. I love that. And I love that scene. I think that scene totally works for me as somebody that wasn't even familiar with her work. I was like, yeah, let's listen. If you're not signed up for that scene, you're fucked.
Yeah, you're not right. You're fucked. Like, why are you 2 hours or two and a half hours into this movie? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
No,
a little kid is already wrapped on the street. There's already a boy's peed his pants. Like there's a lot, and then almost that scene plus the frog scene. And like you need those weirdness levels to exist in the same 30 minutes chunk, so that you can stick around.
Right.
Well, there is something we haven't talked about, which maybe connects to this, is the film's opening.
Oh, right. Yeah.
The Ricky Jay voiceover.
Yeah.
So great. Yeah.
Of all the things that happened, weird things that have happened in history that were surely not coincidence.
Oh yeah, and then we get Patton Oswalt, a very early Patton Oswalt cameo. Yeah.
Keep forgetting he was in this.
Of all things. And so I think that does put this almost like philosophical or even like metaphysical angle onto the film, which is sort of like, why are these people meeting? What do these chance meetings mean? And like, is there some kind of grand design to our fucked up lives?
Totally.
Yeah. I think I want to ask you guys what exactly you think the philosophy of this movie is in a second. And also what it's about, because I think that's a hard thing for people to articulate. And I've heard a lot of people make different claims as far as that goes. But I do think it begins with this idea of coincidence. It introduces an idea of divine intervention. There's the Exodus 8:2s that appear all over the place in the background, right? Which alludes to the plague of frogs. I do think one thing that I always think about whenever I'm watching this movie, this is from the liner notes to the soundtrack where he talks. So Paul Thomas Anderson wrote the preface, right? Where he talks about the process of trying to get Amy Mann to give him her songs, and then also write a couple for the movie. So I'm going to read just 2 quick paragraphs. He says, like one would adapt a book for the screen, I had the concept of adapting Amy's songs into a screenplay. All that follows in these liner notes should be prefaced with that notion. I was an Amy Mann fan before I was an Amy Mann friend. That said, I will proceed to shine her shoes. And then he goes on and talks a lot about her. But he ends by saying this, right? He says, Amy's a brilliant writer. She writes lines that are so simple and direct, you are convinced that you have either A, heard it before, B, said it before, or C, thought of it before, or just never wrote it down. But the truth of the matter is, it's none of the above. Like any great writer, she has the ability to articulate. She's the great articulator of the biggest things we think about. How can anyone love me? why the hell would anyone love me? And the old favorite, why would I love anyone when all it means is torture? So then he goes on, he closes after that, right? And so I think that, like, so I've been an Amy Mann fan for like long before this. I was a Till Tuesday fan. Like I've been on the Amy Mann bandwagon for a long time. But I do think that is like, when I think about her music and what its connection is to this movie, it is kind of that, right? It's almost like the sort of stunning revelation that like other people exist is sort of what everything this movie tries to kind of drive you towards in the end, right? Like other people have problems too is something that is actually remarkably difficult for us to actually like think about all the time. And sometimes you need a plague of frogs to like drive that point home, right?
Yeah.
And so I think when I think about the way that Amy Mann writes music, that she allows the listener to put themselves as the protagonist of her songs. That to me is sort of where he's most successful in kind of adapting the ideas that she has into a film.
I had no idea that Amy Mann's songs were, like, I knew they were influential to this film, but I did not know how influential to this film they were, because it's like there's lines of the songs in the movie, like you said. That's like, what a unique way. I don't know if I've ever seen a filmmaker do that, you know?
Yeah. And I don't think, like, I think at the end of the day, he kind of not necessarily ditched the concept, but like also used the concept and then expanded into something else, right? That was sort of uniquely his own. But definitely the genesis point of this movie was like, that was his intention, right? Was trying to like figure out a way to convert this songwriter he loves into a screenplay. Without, you know, it being just like the fucking whatever the Johnny Cash movie, you know, whatever, like any of those like biopic, like the new Michael Jackson movie, like not that way, but rather like something that lives, like kind of like way off topic here, but like the last vignette in I'm Not There, where like Richard Gere is like living in the world of Bob Dylan songs, right? Like that sort of a thing, where it's like bringing the sort of songwriter's world to life in that way. But
I mean, the fact that the way you're describing Amy Mann's music to be for everyone, not necessarily about specific theme, like about themes that are more universal than they are personal to her. It just, I mean, that's so, you're right. Like, it's so, I feel like it's really hard to pinpoint what the theme of this movie is sometimes. And that is a good example of that. Is like, what's it about? It is too broad, but then you watch it and you go back to it and you somehow feel older and wiser after you've seen the film.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's impossible to pinpoint like one theme in this movie, but one of them could be like, it's too broad to search for wholeness in, but you're going to try anyway.
Yeah, you're specifically 3.5 hours older. So Julia, what is your take on what is Magnolia about?
I think it's about kind of the certainty of suffering, and the suffering that we experience as social creatures, and that it's kind of it feels almost like a corrective to me to the American dream, right? That these people have all these different kinds of
I like that
accomplishments or privileges or promises, and that in no way inculcates you from suffering.
So says the Buddha.
Yeah, like, well, yeah, but then
for sure.
like, and that loving other beings is going to involve suffering too. And so I feel like it's perhaps it is very Buddhist in that it accepts that and kind of just has its characters go through that, you know, rather than try and like have a last minute save the day happy ending. Although we could say there are these little happy endings within the film, but yeah, I think I would say suffering and our resistance to accepting suffering as a culture.
I like
supposed to just trying to paper over it or
put
up a candy bar stall over it or something.
Yeah, and the difficulty of like acknowledging that suffering, right? Acknowledging that's the hard thing, is like looking at it, which is why Frank is Frank, because it's not really it's this facade, right? To like avoid the trauma and the pain. Yeah, I like that. Polly, go ahead.
I mean, I think you guys have nailed so many. It's hard to pull out a new one out of my Mary Poppins bag right now. But I mean, I know for me, it was a lot of what you're already saying. When I was younger, it was like like the characters searching for meaning in different ways, like about all these other things: chance, circumstance, loneliness, regret, forgiveness, frogs.
Yeah.
Like I know that I was trying to search for meaning in my own life to make sense of how could these things possibly happen? What is the coincidences here that like these feel too surreal to be merely coincidences, but then like finding meaning and realizing that happens to everybody.
Yeah.
So you guys, I think we nailed it.
We solved Magnolia.
Yes,
we did.
The labyrinth of Magnolia. We solved it.
Yeah, I will just say that like I've had highs and lows with my relationship to this movie over the years, and I think like 4 years ago I was somewhere not as high as I had been, and I think actually the events of the last 4 years have probably kind of changed me back into. I still loved it, but like not sort of unabashedly. But I think I'm back to loving it unabashedly, and there are some things like I think sometimes when he shoehorns some of the Amy Mann references that they don't work, and that's fine. That's part of like the messiness of it for me. I'm like, does that really make sense as a line there? I don't know. But yeah, I think.
Wait, can I ask which line? Does any line
speak
to
the Laura Walters like now that we've met, would you agree to like never see me again? Whatever. I'm like,
yes. Watching that back, you're like, oh, I remember that line not feeling as jarring, but it did.
It's weird now. It's like, okay, that's just a line from a song. But yeah, I think a lot of the events of the last few years have made it once again like incredibly relevant and prescient. And
oh, totally.
It's great. So, any of you guys have last thoughts before we conclude with our final? We could talk about this for like another 6 hours because usually our podcasts are longer than the movie we cover, but not this time. So,
I think Claudia, the actress that played Claudia, which I can't remember her name, you just said it.
Laura Walters, yeah.
Yes, I feel like when I've talked about this like throughout my life, people point to her as one that they don't quite feel like fits in the film, or that they don't quite like her acting style in the film, and I completely disagree. I just think she works perfectly in contrast to John C. Reilly's character. They have this both underlying sweetness to both of them, whether that despite how jarringly different their energies are.
Yeah.
And also as somebody that is like very familiar with drug addicts, I'm like, nope, she fucking nailed it.
She nailed it. For sure. Yeah. 100%.
So I think justice for anybody that doesn't think that she belongs in this film. I feel like I kind of watching her in this made me want to go like, dang, I wish I could have seen her in more stuff, after this. But I love this movie.
Without her character, I would not the real lasting impact this movie's had on my life would not be there, which is that I always assess how dirty my coffee pot is based on how much it looks like hers. And I was like, it's time to go in the dishwasher now because you're looking like Claudia's coffee pot. That's a true story. Like I literally think of that every time I look at a dirty coffee pot, and I'm like, ugh. We don't want to be doing that.
I'm gonna do the same when I look at my appliances. I'm like thinking of my air fryer. Holly, clean that.
Yeah. You don't want to be Claudia. You don't want to go down that road because that's how it really happens.
Absolutely.
Dirty air fryer.
The air fryer, then straight down to heroin.
It's just that air fryers, okay, this is a whole different subject, but air fryers attract the kinds of foods that make crumbs. And it's like,
yes,
they make the perfect tater tot, but at the same time, fuck,
I know. Give me a single use air fryer and I will burn through that bad boy. Let me get a new one every time.
Why not? We're on our way out anyways. Let's just smoke them if you got them. Approach to environmentalism. Why not? Okay. So Julia, you're gonna have to do the last two questions, but we have to like strike a couple off of the eligibility charts. So you can't say Magnolia, and you can't say Clueless because you've already said that, and you can't say Mystery Men. So we're gonna ask you, aside from Clueless, Mystery Men, and Magnolia, these two final questions.
Okay.
Question number 1 is: do you have a favorite movie from '99? That I guess is not
Mystery Men or Magnolia.
I do.
Okay.
I would say Galaxy Quest. I know you guys covered it. I listened to that episode, and I absolutely adore that movie. I think it holds up really well, and I'm like right now thinking about, should I get a tattoo that says "Never Surrender"? Should I do that?
Oh, why not? Yeah.
Why?
Get lots of Galaxy Quest tattoos. Like, it's been 25 years. It's always going to be good. You're not going to feel regret it. You know.
Yeah, exactly. At this point, we can stand by. If Tim Allen's who he is now as a person isn't, no one's gonna knock me for getting a Never Surrender tattoo because of Tim Allen. So
yeah, or I mean, it's a great opportunity to get Alan Rickman's face on your body, also.
And aren't we all looking for that opportunity?
Or
that
Enrico
isn't
Colantoni.
related.
Yeah. Or Tony Shalhoub.
So many people.
So many people. No, it's is that what Will said too? I feel like 1 or 2 guests ago said the same.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, did Truman Show come out in '99? It did, didn't it?
No, it was '98. But Man on the Moon was '99. So that was the other snub for Jim Carrey was the following year. No, if Truman Show came out that year, like Jesus Christ, I don't even know.
Yeah.
I would explode. Okay, question 2.
Do you have a favorite movie of all time?
I mean, am I allowed to say one I already said?
Sure. You can't say Clueless, but you can.
Yeah. These are totally arbitrary rules on John's part.
Oh my God, a favorite movie of all
Aside
time.
From Clueless and Magnolia.
Isn't Clueless. Oh gosh. This is so hard. The two that come to mind are going to make me look insane.
No, that's fine. That's the point of the question, is to make people look insane.
So the first one that came to mind was Alien.
Oh, that's a great choice. That's not insane.
I know.
That's amazing.
That's not insane. It's what I'm about to follow it up with. That's
okay,
like
cool.
What's your palette here, Hall?
Faces of Death.
No, I was gonna say Legally Blonde is probably up there for me. I think it's a near perfect script, and that's why I'm saying I'm living in the space that Alien's one of my favorite movies of all time, and Legally Blonde is one of my favorite movies of all time. I think they are perfect in their own rights for exactly what I need.
The old Netflix algorithm for strong female characters.
Oh, yeah. You got my algorithms down pat.
I mean, you could make a case. Like, certainly Clueless, Legally Blonde, Galaxy Quest, within their own specific like subgenres of comedy, are like perfect samples of.
Yes, exactly. I love a comedy that picks a lane and really explores it.
Yeah.
Even if it's not appreciated at the time. Neither, obviously, those films were, but like Galaxy Quest. I mean, Josie and the Pussycats being one. Like, just films that know what they are and they don't care if the mass public likes them.
And Clueless was part of that like weird 1990s thing of doing like modern teen versions of like classic literature or Shakespeare.
I know, what a trend. I'm like,
it's a weird trend.
we don't talk about that enough when we talk about like, oh, vampires are popular right now. It's like, what about teen Shakespeare hybrids?
Let's bring that back. Let's bring back the teen Shakespeare hybrid.
Teach the youth.
Yeah, we had 10 Things I Hate About You and like and then you had Clueless based on Jane Austen, and then you had like She's All That, which was Pygmalion, and yeah. Bring it back. Cool trend.
I think is this year her 250th birthday, death day?
Jane Austen?
Yeah.
That would make sense.
So I think there are some celebrations planned by, various niche groups of fandom. So I'm sure.
Oh, I bet.
We may be getting it.
I have a book called Jane Austen's Guide to Dating, and it's very funny. Highly recommend to anybody who enjoys Jane Austen and dissections of her characters as people who are bad at relationships and or good at them. But yeah, it's a good book. All right, it's getting late. We're going to wrap it up there. Holly, before we go, why don't you tell people where to find? I mean, like a lot. You got a lot you can plug. So, like your new podcast, you also do stand-up comedy, and like tell people how to become Holly Stan.
Thanks. I have a new podcast called Everybody Knows But Me that's out now, and you can find it wherever you listen to podcasts. It is a weird genre hybrid show of comedy and tragedy and sitcoms and 90s lore. And I'm a stand-up comedian in Los Angeles that also tours. So follow me at Holly Brown Comedy on all the social platforms and come say hi in person and tell me how fucked up my life is to my face.
Well, not all social platforms, because you're not on Blue Sky, which you gotta.
Oh, I know. I'm not. I just don't have the bandwidth. I don't have the time. But I am not on Blue Sky. I know. I will be.
Yeah, it's like that's the only social media that like we're both on. So.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm technically on Instagram, but I don't.
I think I'm technically on Instagram too, and I like have a Facebook account just so I can like look at it once a week to be like, any of my high school friends died or get married or anything. Like that sort of thing. But
you know,
that's pretty much it. No, yeah. All
right, John. I'll get a Blue Sky account. I will do it. I'll do it.
All right, cool. Yes, you definitely should. Blue Sky's fun. It really is. Like it's a bunch of weirdos, arguing the same side of a debate.
So true. From everything I know about, which also probably the side of the debate that I am gonna want to be a part of. So
yeah. Right. Yes. Twitter is fascists and Blue Sky is just like annoying people who agree with you aggressively. So I'll take that sort of any day of the week. You can find us on Blue Sky. I'm at John Brooks. Julia's at Julia Sermons. The show is at 1999 the podcast. Holly, thanks so much. This was a lot of fun. Glad we were able to pull this off.
Yeah.
Finally. And thanks for giving us an excuse to revisit Magnolia and for Julia to watch it for the first time. So
I know. Thank you guys so much for having me. I've been listening to the show. I'm making my way through some episodes. I actually just did like a curated podcast list for a podcast newsletter, and I included the show as one of my shows that I think people should check out. So I just think you guys are doing something really cool, and I love the theme that you got going on.
Oh my God, thanks so much. That really means a lot. You just got yourself invited back, Holly. So no, for sure. Let's do it again sometime. It'd be
yeah,
great.
Would love to.
We can watch something like half as long and a little bit lighter.
Oh man, no, I'm kidding.
All right, thanks you guys, and we will see you all next time.
I know life is getting